Hello, my name is Gary Mansfield, and this is a bonus episode of the Ministry of Arts podcast. Now, as ever, let's begin by banging these bongos.
Yeah, right. Crazy.
Hello, and welcome to this bonus episode of the Ministry of Arts podcast. Today, I'm taking you to meet Joseph Ford. I've been following Joseph on Instagram for quite some time, and whenever his work pops up on my feed, a smile normally follows because there's a definite feel-good factor to his work. He comes from the Brighton area and tells of his collaboration with one of Brighton's best-known creatives, Fatboy Slim. And it's those sort of collaborations between Joseph's photography and now street artists which is making up the bulk of his newest work. But come and find out more details for yourself as I spoke to Joseph Ford. Hiya mate, how are you?
Hey Gary, how's things? Yeah, I'm good.
Where are you today?
I'm in Brighton.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it is.
And is it nice down there today?
It's lovely. Yeah,
Good.
Absolutely gorgeous weather. Yeah, really, really hot and sunny. I was going to sit out in the hammock in the garden actually.
Oh, nice.
And then I thought we'll end up with seagull noise over the recording.
I don't mind any noise at all, to tell you the truth. Right, Joseph, there's several questions I ask each artist.
Okay.
And the first being, how would you explain what you do to someone that wouldn't know your work?
So that is, I guess most of my work is looking at optical illusions. And I tend to work in series. So I'll come up with an idea. I'm going to come up with a lot of ideas. Most of them I scrap because they turn out to be ridiculous or incredibly complicated or whatever. Some of them I roll with, and then I'll tend to work for several years on the same project. And I'll often have like a couple, sort of the end of one project going while the beginning of the next project is going. So tends to be optical illusions, often collaborative. And I guess I'm just really interested in stuff that draws the viewer in and gets you to look for small details. So I really like seeing my work on a large scale, sort of printed a couple of meters wide, something like that, because I work on something in very high definition, and you'll end up with something that I don't know, gets shown on Instagram or on a website or TV or whatever, and you can't really see anything very much at that scale.
Yeah.
And then you see a massive print of it, and people are like, "Oh wow, I never realised this bit was in there." So it's not a very clear answer, really, is it?
Oh, no, it's perfectly clear. I mean, what you was just saying there, I noticed after lockdown for 2 years or so,
Yeah.
when I saw more work on my phone in that 2 years than I probably had in the previous 10, because I'd made friends with people on the phone, artists, got to know their work.
Yeah.
When I've gone to see it in person, I'll be like, now I get it.
Now you get it.
It was attractive. It was attractive to me before, but seeing it in person, it's got a whole new language.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I mean, I think when I go to see exhibitions, I'm always that annoying person who's right at the front, and I'm trying to look like it was a painting. I want to see the detail of the brush strokes, and I mean, I can't paint. I don't know anything about it, but I find the techniques really interesting. So it's great to be able to look in very, very close. Or if I'm going to look at a photography exhibition, like if you look at photography from 60, 70, 80 years, like people think retouching is a new thing. But actually, retouching's been around since the beginning of photography.
Yeah.
It's just that 100 years ago, you'd retouch something you'd scrape away gelatin from the negative with a razor blade or off the print to kind of lighten an area. And you'd sort of paint details in, done something. I feel like particularly when you see really big paintings, you can actually start imagining, I guess, what the artist, not necessarily what the artist was thinking, but you feel much more connected than when you see something in a book or see something online.
Definitely.
And it actually becomes real. Like you go and see the Monet's water lilies or something, and it's those are images that are so well known that you kind of imagine that you know everything about them. You're just kind of, okay, it's Giverny, you've got the water lilies, blah, 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 blah. And then you actually see them for real, and you get a whole different scope of view, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like it's incredibly important to be able to have access to the kind of spaces where you can actually go and see stuff properly.
Yeah. You've mentioned about optical illusions.
Yeah.
Everyone loves an optical illusion. I don't care who you are. Tell us about invisible jumpers.
Okay. So I guess with that series, I'd probably take a step further back. There was a series I did before that where I was flying around in helicopters, taking photographs of landscapes, and then matching those up with textile elements in fashion. And I think when I was doing that really got me thinking about the sort of way that you can make one thing look like another. And then I met a woman called Nina Dodd, who lives in Brighton as well. And she likes knitting crazy things. I mean, she'll knit, like, if you give her if you say, I want something weird knitted, she's the person to go to.
Brilliant.
And she really likes buses. She's very preoccupied by buses as well as knitting. And she'd done this jumper kind of using the same sort of material as the seat patterns in Brighton and Hove buses. And I said, well, we should do something with this. Like, let's set up a shoot and we can shoot someone. So I did a photograph of a guy that we found in a barber's, kind of big hipster beard, all that jazz, in a bus, and that looked great. And then I thought, okay, well, what can we do? What else can we do? So I thought, well, let's do a dog, because everyone likes a dog. And we borrowed a dog from, I don't know, a friend of a friend or something. Knitted a jumper for a dog, and then photographed a dog. And I kind of thought, I want to do some more of these. And it just kind of went from there. And I suppose what I really enjoy with a series like that is once you've established the main sort of the principle, the concept, you can then take it wherever you want.
Yeah, it starts to unfold itself, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, I like making people laugh. I like making myself laugh. And I like challenges. And so I'd kind of think, oh, I wonder what we could do. Like, could we do kids? So I got my kids and photographed my kids. And everyone says, like, don't work with animals, don't work with kids. So I thought, okay, I'll do both of those. And then I was sort of thinking, oh, well, we've got knitting. It's kind of quintessentially British. So let's do another quintessentially British thing. So we did a teapot. And then, I don't know, I got in touch with Fatboy Slim, because he lives in Brighton as well. And he's generally up for anything a bit weird. I gave him a shout and he was like, yeah, great, come around. And he was like, come around for a cup of tea and I'll show you around my house and see anything interesting. So I went around to his house, had a cup of tea. And then he was like, I've got this thing up on the roof. I think you're really going to like it. We went up to the roof and he's got like an 8-meter wide smiley on the roof of his house. Yeah, so we went up to Norman's roof and he's got this massive smiley. And I was like, well, we've got to do this, haven't we? So we knitted him a massive dressing gown. And then a German TV channel got in touch and they said, we've seen this project you're doing. We'd like to come and film you doing a shoot sometime. Have you got anything coming up? And I was like, well, I'm shooting Fatboy Slim next week. And they were like, oh my God, can we come?
Brilliant.
So I gave Norman a bell and he was like, let yourselves in, make yourselves at home. And that was great because, yeah, we just had a whale of a time. So for me, it's been a really fun project to do. And I spent a lot of time, I guess, exploring other ideas that I wanted to play with through the prism of the invisible jumpers. So there was a street artist called Monsieur Chat in Paris, and I'd always loved his work. So I got in touch with him and said, look, can we do one of these with you? And there we had the problem that it was very difficult to, like, obviously graffiti is very ephemeral. And the only places it really lasts in big cities where you've got a lot of people painting is if it is somewhere accessible. But I wasn't going to be able to photograph him in front of somewhere inaccessible. So in the end, we just kind of went location scouting, found a derelict factory, broke in. I mean, didn't break in, obviously. climbed in through an entrance that somebody had left slightly open. And he painted a piece of artwork specially for my project, which I loved.
Brilliant.
So yeah,
I'd seen the one of Fat Boys, or I'd seen the smiley.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that was Fat Boy Slim in the photo being camouflaged.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the trouble with seeing it on your bloody phone, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's so small, isn't it? You just don't get any idea. But yeah, Fatboy Slim curated an exhibition at Ville's Gallery in Lisbon, all about smileys. Riker was there as well.
Brilliant.
And we printed that one, I think, 2.5 meters wide. And there you can really see the detail. I mean, you can see every detail, every stitch of the knitting. And I love seeing it that big because you can see that we did do it for real. It's not just CGI, it's not Photoshop. It's a kind of deliberately analog process.
Yeah.
And there are bits that don't match. There are bits that don't quite work. But for me, that's part of the beauty of it, because you can see that it's a real thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's brilliant that you can just reach out to someone. I mean, that's the thanks of social, well, I presume it was social media, but you can just reach out to someone, and if they like the idea, they'll go along with it.
Yeah, exactly. Which is lovely.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Did you always have, did you have creativity in the home growing up?
My dad's a photographer, or was till he retired. So yeah,
in what field?
He did advertising, cars, booze, tobacco, basically. Brilliant. So
proper bloke.
Yeah, all those good 80s, all those good 80s things. So yeah, that was what helped me grow up. And I guess when I was a little kid, I used to, I don't know, if I was ill and had a day off school, and I'd often go to a studio and I'd just kind of sit around and watch people doing that. And I thought that was really interesting. And when I was really little, I wanted to be a photographer. I guess just because my dad was a photographer.
Of course.
And then, I don't know, between the age of about 10 and 20, I had no interest in it whatsoever.
There you go. And then how did it rekindle?
So I had a friend who, while I was at university, I had a friend who got into photography. And I just went along with him sometime when he was taking pictures and thought, quite like this. Yeah, and yeah, got a little camera and started playing around, and yeah.
Sorry, what was your initial course in university?
Yeah, completely unrelated, French and Italian.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, but it was good because as part of that, I had my third year. I spent studying in France. I was in Paris for a year, and Paris was an amazing place for photography. I mean, like the UK takes photography seriously as an art form now, but that's really quite recent. Whereas in France, it's been taken seriously.
Oh, forever, yeah.
As a proper art form for a long, long time. So there are a lot of really established museums and galleries. And the place I was studying had a darkroom. So I didn't really do very much study that year. The whole year just going to exhibitions and taking pictures, which was great. It was a wonderful, wonderful education.
So what was your intention after university initially to use your French and Italian degree?
I guess when I went to university, I kind of wasn't thinking that far, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
I just thought, I like French, I like France, I'd like to go and study this and see what happens.
There you go.
And then I guess when I started doing photography, I really wanted to be a war photographer. And then I did a lot of photographing, kind of big demonstrations and stuff in Paris while I was a student there. And I really enjoyed it.
And they know how to do a demonstration over there.
They certainly do. Yeah. Till you start mixing it up with the riot police in Paris, you've not seen a proper demonstration. Yeah, they get into it. I think you could say that, can't you?
Yeah. And when was it that you decided to carry on being a photographer?
I guess it was during that year in Paris. It was, I had 1 year left to do at university after that. And I sort of came back and I spent all my time doing photography for the student newspapers and just sort of thinking, okay, next year, as soon as I graduate, I'm going to move back to Paris and be a photographer. But I was massively naive. I kind of thought, like, I don't know how much you know about the sort of 20th century history of photography, but before the war, like in Paris in the 20s and 30s, that really was the place to be if you wanted to be a photojournalist. And that was where Magnum was set up, and it was just a huge developing kind of place for photography. And I just kind of didn't manage not to notice that time had moved on, really. So I just sort of thought, I'll go back to Paris, I'll carry on shooting black and white street photography, and then I'll be a Magnum in a few years' time. Yeah, and it didn't quite pan out like that.
So when was it you saw yourself as an artist?
I guess that's really been something I've been feeling since I've been working in series of photos rather than just sort of taking a picture here or a picture there.
Which was when?
Which I suppose when I started doing the side-by-side aerial things, that was about 11 years ago that I started those. And that was, I guess that was the point at which I felt I'd really found some kind of voice. And I've been enjoying what I was doing up till then, but there wasn't necessarily the same kind of coherence to it.
Yeah.
And that was a project where there was a very clear idea, and it really gave me something to get my teeth into. And I guess I was very fortunate because it started off as a sort of personal idea, and then it went viral, and people started contacting me and saying, actually, would you be able to, like, we'd really like to sort of give you a carte blanche to work on a series like this for us. So I got contacted by Armani and Lacoste and various brands who were making the kind of clothes that I was using for that series anyway. So for me, it was an amazing opportunity because I got a carte blanche. I got somebody else actually covering the costs of doing shoots like that, because you don't just get in a helicopter and go and fly it around for fun. I mean, you're looking $2 or $3 grand an hour. So
that's how I go down the shops to get a pint of milk.
Yeah. you really need someone commissioning that kind of a project.
Of course.
And then they're giving you access to really interesting sort of clothes and textures and textiles and things. So that was a really enjoyable challenge.
Well, it opens up your field of vision as well, doesn't it, to what's possible?
Yeah, it does.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Which piece, Joseph, do you think has got the strongest emotional connection?
That's really tough. I think I get too emotionally bound up in my pictures, in my work. So often, like I can get some distance from work I've created a couple of years after, because I've sort of forgotten most of the emotions that went creating it. But I know often when I've been working on a project, there are things I'll hate because I just remember that it was really hard creating it, or that I had a sort of mental block on something for a week or a day or a few hours or whatever it is. And then there are other pieces of work that I've created where I'll sort of think, wow, this is the best thing I've ever done. I have absolute blast creating it. Then you can look at it 6 months on and you're like, well, it's okay, but that other one that I wasn't really thinking much about because everything sort of went fairly easily is actually better. So it's tough. I guess.
I mean, is there an image that you look back on that it's sort of you learned something from it, or it was a whole lot more than you was expecting it to be? That was stand out for you, you know?
Yeah, I'm just thinking. There's a piece that I created with a street artist called Peter in my new series, Impossible Street Art, and he's an artist. I've been following his work for a long time, but I'd only ever seen it online, so I hadn't seen the scale of it. And I photographed a big building, and he then painted onto this building, onto the photograph of the building. And receiving the print that he had worked on absolutely blew me away, because I saw the level of the detail that he had created on that, and the fact that that was a piece of work that existed only because I'd asked him to kind of collaborate with me on that felt really special, because I think it's something that underlines a lot of my work, I do tend to work in a collaborative way. And I find it really, really exciting when I can work with somebody else and you create something which goes way further than what I could do or what they could do, because you're doing it together.
Yeah.
I think you get that sort of cross-fertilization.
Well, what is your input?
Create stuff that really kind of blows me away.
What is your input to Impossible Street Art, as in the visual illusion?
Yeah. So what I've done with that is I'll think of a place that I'm interested in having street art painted, and that'll tend to be sometimes it'll be a specific location. So there's one that I did on the side of the National Theatre in London, and it's just a building I love. I'm crazy about brutalist architecture, and it's just it's a beautiful building, I think, just architecturally. And then it's just this massive empty canvas. Brilliant. And you just can look at it and you're like, any street artist would love to have a go at that. And so it's just a place I've wanted to do something with for ages. And for me, with that one, it was a matter of finding an angle where I thought I'd be able to create something that gave multiple dimensions, not just a flat space, but sort of a flat bit and then other surfaces going away from the viewer. So you end up with a painting that's in multiple dimensions. And then once I'd got the photograph that I thought was right, I started looking for an artist who I thought would fit well into that space, because not everyone is going to work for that space.
Of course.
I wanted someone very graphic. And there's a Belgian street artist called Denny Meyers who sort of does calligraphy, and it's black and white. And I thought that in a very monochrome environment, that would work very well, because you've got this huge sort of concrete coloured building, and just a sort of pale blue sky, and then you've got this very, very stark painting on it. So I did the print, and then he and I were working on another project together. I took the print along, and we sort of discussed what kind of words he was going to write on it, which areas he was going to paint on, the scale, and then he painted it while I was there. So there, I guess I was very involved in it.
Did it get applied to the building digitally?
So yeah, shall I run through the process?
Please do.
Okay, I see a building, I photograph the building, I do a big photographic print of that photograph, and then I give that print to an artist who paints directly on the print.
Splendid. Okay, good. Sorry, I missed a link in that.
Yeah, no worries.
Conversation.
Yeah. And then I take the print back to that place, set it up on an easel in the same angle as I originally photographed it, and I re-photograph the print.
I've seen these of yours anyway, and I didn't realise that is how it was done. So I do apologise.
Have you seen the videos?
No, I've not seen videos, but I've seen the photographs.
Yeah, but yeah, if you have a look on my site.
If I did see the videos, then I wouldn't have just made myself look a fool for the last 2 minutes.
Well, no, you're making me think, oh, shit, maybe I've made this too complicated. I'm really getting it. Yeah, if you have a look at the videos, I've generally tried to do a slider video for each one of these, where you start off kind of in the wrong perspective and then move over till you're in the right perspective, so you can see how it's done.
Yeah, it's sort of similar to when people get a historic photograph and go back to the place today and hold it and, find that exact spot, which are always fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Another question that I've got here for each guest, Joseph, is if there was you and 5 other artists, past and present, what would your ideal group show be?
Oh, Michelangelo.
Nice.
Because I reckon he'd be a street artist today. I mean, he was painting huge frescoes.
Yeah. Using
optical illusions. And say what you like, the man knew what he was doing with a paintbrush.
He did, most definitely.
Yeah, so I'd love to work with him. Vils.
Oh yeah, he's cool, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, I love what he does. He's I think he's endlessly inventive. Yeah, so that would be.
I mean, not many artists use explosives, do they?
No, they don't. Yeah, I think I think that's what I find really exciting about Vils is the fact that he's really looking for new ways of doing things, and I think that's really satisfying for me. I think there's a photographer called Bill Brandt. I don't know if you know him.
I don't think I do. I may know his work.
Did black and white, mostly black and white, or pretty much all black and white photography. Brandt. I think he was. I'm going to make this up. I think he might have been Hungarian originally, but he lived in Britain most of his life. And he was, I guess, working in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. And he's, to be honest, he was probably the reason I started photography, really got interested in it. So how many is that? Michelangelo, Vils, Bill Brandt, Hiroshige, because he's another one of my favorite artists. And then probably be Banksy, I think.
Oh, there you go.
It's got to be Banksy, because I think just because the simplicity of his humor, and I don't mean by that it's simple as in facile, just that it's very, very economical, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's something which I think is very difficult to achieve.
Well, he knows how to grab the attention of the viewer, pull them in, and then let them peel away the skins of that onion as much as they please.
Yeah. So there you go. Fairly eclectic 5 artists.
Ideal.
What do other people say for that?
Warhol, Bacon, Frida Kahlo, Picasso. They're the main. Damien Hirst pops up a hell of a lot.
Right.
Banksy pops up a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, the main ones is definitely Bacon. I don't know if I said Bacon.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
They're the main ones really. Sarah Lucas, Tracy Emin.
Yeah. Okay.
So it depends. It's who and that 5 you just said there. You know, it'll be a different lineup if I was asked you next week as well. You know.
Yeah.
And have you got anything coming up?
Yes. So I'm going to Jersey City on Friday.
Nice.
Spending a couple of weeks there, creating a bunch of new pictures in the Impossible Street Art series. So that should be a lot of fun.
When's that coming out?
So that's going to be coming out in about 3 months' time, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Which is ideal, to be honest, because this may not even be out by then.
And other stuff, I guess so there's a French museum where I've got a street art museum where I've got some work exhibited from the Invisible Jumpers series. And they're opening a new museum in Lyon next year, massive new place. And they should be exhibiting more of the Impossible Street Art series there. So that's going to be nice. And working on an anamorphic installation for another project. So yeah, got quite a few.
And is that inside or outside?
That's going to be outdoors.
They're always good, aren't they?
They are, yeah. I love a bit of anamorphosis.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so I'm doing a bunch more pictures in for this series, and I'm going to be shooting some in Switzerland also a bit later this year.
Oh, it's hard life, isn't it?
So, well, yeah, it's tough. Somebody's got to do it. I mean, I got to confess, there is an element with my projects. I do sometimes look at places I want to go and visit.
Oh, of course. And why would you not?
Think there's definitely got to be something I've got to do there.
Yeah, you're not going to have a series based in Dagenham, are you? Just down the road from me.
Yeah, not so much.
And where can anyone find what you're doing, be it website or social media?
So josephford.net is my website. And then on Instagram and Facebook, I'm Joseph Ford Photography. Great.
Right then, mate. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Lovely to meet you. That's
likewise.
Fun.
See you
care.
later on, mate. All
See
the
ya.
best.
Bye.
If you've got an exhibition or any other creative project within the arts, or even just want to promote your own artwork, you could do that in podcast form similar to the one you've just listened to. They start at a convenient price point that is comfortable for any artist working on a budget. This podcast itself is created by working artists, and we know how important that is. So to find out more information, you can email us on ministryofartsorg@gmail.com or on Instagram @ministryofartsorg. Ta-da!